Kesenya, and welcome to another astrology weather report, the first one for 2019. Hooray! I'm all dressed in my party clothes, ready for a celebration. So I hope your celebrations, wherever they are in the world, have gone or are going very well, depending on when you actually watch this video. But yeah, there's a lot to celebrate with the new year. I've noticed online that a lot of people are saying, yay, goodbye 2018, you were horrible and I'm so glad you're gone, that sort of thing. I actually probably take a bit of a different approach. I look back, even though 2018 was very hard for a lot of people, myself included, I'm looking back and saying, wow, haven't I grown? Haven't I come to a whole lot of new perspectives on life? Haven't I embraced a whole different way of being? It's been quite empowering. I'll probably talk a bit about that as we go along, actually, with today's report. But the premise is that there is so much to look back on and give thanks to the universe for 2018. Yes, some of us are thankful that it's over, but also thankful that we've learnt, we've grown, we've matured, we've taken another step on our soul's evolutionary journey. So lots to be thankful for and lots to look forward to. I'm just going to check my notes as we go along. It's kind of difficult to talk for a whole hour or more in most cases without some little triggers, so forgive me for looking down to my notes every now and again. But I want to just encourage you to think about, well, what's coming up. We always look at the intentions for the year ahead. Now, as an astrologer, my premise is that I will tend to make my New Year's resolutions around solstice. New Year is actually a calendar thing, not an astrological thing or an astronomical thing even. It's more just a calendar definition. So I make my intentions around solstice. So I want to ask, maybe what have you decided to focus on for 2019? What did you, what energy did you draw on at solstice time that you were going to incorporate into the year ahead? So there's so much to look forward to in 2019 calendar year, and we can utilize the energy around the time of solstice, which was on the 21st of December, and run with that, whatever our intentions were around that time, and the full moon too, and run with that for the year ahead. So I want to wish everybody, before I begin, blessings and love and light and joy and happiness for 2019. May it bring you what your soul truly desires. May it bring all of us what our souls truly desire. So before we start, I actually want to just explain how I work with my astrology wheel. Now, I get a lot of people each week saying, why do you always use just rising signs? Why don't you use the sun and the moon? Well, the thing is, I do. It just depends what you're looking at. And let me explain what I mean. The sun, the moon, and the ascendant are the three most important components of any astrological chart. So your sun, your moon, your ascendant, they make the foundation of who you are. We refer to it as the primal triad. Now, the sun is the least important of these. Just forgive me if you've heard me give this talk in a video a couple of weeks ago, but I thought if I put it up front, first thing, hopefully most people will hear and understand. The sun is the least important of these three because it's in a sign for 30 days at a time, meaning anyone born in that time, while say the sun is in Capricorn, is going to have a Capricorn sun. And that's a big chunk of people, lots of people are born with the sun in Capricorn. The moon is a little bit quicker. In fact, it's a lot quicker. It takes 1 month to go all the way around. So it goes around 12 times, around the horoscope 12 times for every one time that the sun goes around. And it's in a sign, say Scorpio in this case, it's in a sign for roughly 2.5 days at a time. And this makes it a much smaller window that you could have been born with, for example, the sun in Capricorn and the moon in Scorpio. There's a 2.5 day window when you were born with a Scorpio moon. So that makes the moon much more important, much more definitive of who you are in this journey. Much more so than the sun. And in fact, Vedic astrology tends to focus a great deal on the moon. But the way I work with astrology is actually through the rising sign most of all. I use the moon and I use the sun in my readings. They're all important. They all are, you know, big character building, life journey reflecting planets for us all. But the rising sign changes on the day you were born. It changed every 2 hours, roughly. So that makes the window of opportunity where you could have been born so much more defined. There was a 2-hour window when you could have been born in this chart with the case, with the sign of Aries as your rising sign. A 2.5 roughly hour window when that could have been the case. So it makes, for this person's chart, Aries is the most pivotal indicator that tells the most about your body's journey through life. And indeed, whatever sign is here in the first house, the rising sign or the ascendant sign, the same thing, whatever sign is there, and I use whole sign astrology, so I would see in this case Aries as the whole first house. Whatever sign is there is representative of your body's journey through life, the experiences you're going to have, how you're going to present yourself to the world, how the world is going to perceive you, what people's initial impressions of you are going to be, is going to be seen through the window of the first house or the rising sign or the ascendant sign. So that is how I work, and that is why the wheel chart emphasizes, when I use it, the rising sign. If you're interested in your sun sign, if you're interested in your moon sign, go to that. If you want to use the timestamps and don't want to listen to the whole explanation, you don't want to learn about astrology and how it works, and you just want to jump to your reading, then you can jump to your moon sign. You can jump to your sun sign. It will mean similar things. Simply because, say in this case, if I was talking about a Capricorn, if you went to the Capricorn sun sign, we are essentially putting your Capricorn sun as the first house, and therefore any description regarding any of the other houses will still work with the same theory as we use for the rising sign. So just say I was talking about something happening in Aquarius, well, it would be the second house for a Capricorn sun person. But it would be, if you happen to be Aries rising, there we are, there's Aries rising, it would be your 11th house. If you happen to be Scorpio moon and we were talking about something happening in Aquarius, it would be your 4th house. So you can listen to all three. They're all going to tell you what you need to know in some way, shape or form that will be relevant to you, but the most relevant, the most impactful, the most on the money, the most truthful is your rising sign with what I'm going to be sharing. And I explained why a moment ago, because it has that smaller window. It is much more defining of who you are. The moment of your birth is much more defining moment than the day of your birth or the month of your birth. Day, month. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope it helps explain why the astrology wheel works the way it does. And if you're interested in buying one of the astrology wheels, get in touch with me, send me a message, because I will be offering it for sale in the new year for anybody who's interested in having one of these in their home. And they're lots of fun. My kids love it. So speaking of children, my children are home on holidays at the moment. It's summer holidays here in Australia, and right now they are home in the house. And so if you hear someone yelling out, kill him, kill him, it's probably my 13-year-old playing Fortnite. So just giving you some warning about that my children are being very quiet and I'm very appreciative of that, but you might hear some sort of sudden noises in the background throughout this video. Okay, so we are now going to look at what's coming up this week. Well, the first energy, I'm going to talk about two different energies actually. The first energy is going to unfold for us on the 2nd of January. It's going to say December then. The 2nd of January is when we have the Sun conjuncting with Saturn. Let's make that a bit more obvious, shall we? There they are, together at the same degree. They're going to be at 11 degrees of Capricorn. So like if you've got anything at 11 degrees around the chart, say your ascendant might be at 11 degrees of Pisces, well, it's going to be trining your ascendant. So this is an impactful energy that might be hitting on your, your rising sign. Or if your rising was 11 degrees Aries, it's squaring that. So that's a different type of energy. So there's a number of ways this can play out for each individual person, and that's something I'm not going to go into here, or I will be talking all year long. But in this case, we've got Sun and Saturn together. What does that mean generally for people? Not for people with 11 degrees Pisces rising or 11 degrees. We're talking, this is a general reflection. So you might feel a sense when this happens on January the 2nd, you might feel a sense of satisfaction when you look back on your achievements from 2018. These two planets are planets of achievement. The Sun and Saturn, they're actually both the father figures in the horoscope. They both have associations with father figures, with authority figures, with achievement as well, one through a lot of hard work, one through gifts and natural abilities. And so you might look back at your achievements for 2018 and be really satisfied, be really happy, be really positive about what you've achieved over the last year. Similarly, you might look back at 2018 and think, I didn't do very well, I struggled through this year. It was a real challenge for me. There's nothing wrong with that, because we're all wired differently and we all have our high times and our low times, and that's perfectly all right. But it might trigger Saturn with Sun. The Sun is the ego. Saturn is a very critical planet, and you might have some feeling of self-criticism towards what you achieved. Maybe you feel a bit insecure about where you went and what happened and how the year unfolded for you. Maybe there was a feeling of not good enough. So this conjunction of the two planets asks, well, do you feel good enough? And where and why do you feel good enough, and where and why do you not feel good enough? So it's going to be quite a challenging type of energy, especially around this time of year when we're being very reflective and we're looking at things from a, what's happened over the last year point of view. It's also a time for restructuring. Saturn is structure and building new foundations, new organizations, new ways of doing things, and the Sun is about how we shine. So we may be very much focused on this day restructuring how we choose to shine in the world, in what ways we're going to shine. So we might be looking ahead to the year to come and saying, well, how can I restructure my life so that I don't experience what happened to me in 2018? How can I restructure my life so that I can build upon everything good that happened for me in 2018? So it's a real time of assessment and restructuring, but it can also be a heavy time emotionally. So just heads up on that one. You might be a bit of a struggle for some people, particularly people who are very sensitive to the energies around us collectively as well. But the one thing that I wanted to point out with this energy is that it is setting the stage for the eclipse, and this is what the main focus of this video is going to be all about. We're going to be talking about the eclipse, and this is occurring on the 6th of December, and we'll configure this for the 6th of December in just a minute. But these two planets are lining up to make an eclipse. So Saturn is going to be involved with this eclipse. The conjunction occurs with the Sun, and then 4 days later we have an eclipse. So they're going to really be pulling in together, and I will talk about the role of Saturn in this eclipse as we go along. But on the 2nd of December, we've got over here Venus and the Moon are conjunct together. They're the two feminine planets hanging out together, being friends in Scorpio. And then by the 6th, the Moon is going to move here as well. Now, it's not going to be at 11 degrees. The Sun and the Moon will conjunct at 15 degrees of Capricorn. So it is, I tend to use a 5-degree orb mostly. I like things nice and tight. And with a 5-degree orb, that still places Saturn as part of this connection. Saturn's at 11 degrees during the eclipse, and these two are 4 degrees away at 15 degrees. So they're all tightly connected and part of this energy. So what is also interesting to note, we've got this occurring at 15 degrees of Capricorn, and the nodes, here they are here, that's the south node and that's the north node. I might have them upside down there. But the nodes are at 26 degrees of Leo. I've got them in the wrong place, goodness sakes. Yeah. The nodes are at 26 degrees. Let me get this right. Sorry, folks. The nodes are at 26 degrees of Cancer and 26 degrees of Capricorn. Sorry about that. So they're all in the same sign, but they're a fair way apart. In fact, they're over 10 degrees apart. And because they are 10 degrees apart, these guys here at 26, these guys at 15, it is going to make this a partial eclipse. The closer the eclipse, in this case it's a solar eclipse, the closer the eclipse occurs to the nodes, the more full the eclipse is. So this is a partial eclipse because it's over 10 degrees away. Really, any more than 11 degrees and just not a thing. So in this case, we've got the solar eclipse. Now, a solar eclipse is when we have a new moon, and the new moon is between the Earth, which we'll say is representative of this little central bit here, the Earth and the Sun. Here is the moon sitting between the Earth, from our view from Earth, between the Sun. And so we've got the new moon eclipse. The moon will be invisible, essentially. Now, what is also interesting is where this eclipse will be presenting itself, and this will, it's going to occur in, or its energy is going to be present in the North Pacific and Northeast Asia, so places like Beijing, Northeast Russia, Seoul, Taipei, Tokyo. Those places are going to feel the energy of this new moon eclipse the most, this solar eclipse, where so comparatively, the last eclipse that we had, which was back on August the 11th, and it was also a solar eclipse, that occurred in northeastern Europe and the northern parts of North America. And so the impact, the theory goes that wherever the eclipse energy is visible or present or most felt, that will be the parts of the world that are affected. A good example of this is what occurred for me on the 27th of July eclipse. This was a very, very powerful eclipse for me because it occurred on my sun and it was visible in Australia. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but if you are in a part of the world where the eclipse is going to be visible or felt, the energy is most strong, then you will likely experience more change than people in parts of the world where it's not visible or it's not strongest energy. So in this case, we're looking at Tokyo, Taipei, Beijing, places like that will experience this eclipse at its most powerful. The rest of the world, we can still feel the energy, but it may not be as life-changing as it is going to be for those parts of the world in sort of Asia. So the way we see whether an eclipse is going to affect us personally is by firstly assessing the power of the eclipse. Okay, this is a partial eclipse, so it's not as strong as the eclipse that occurred last July, which was much more, it was a full eclipse, and it was one of the longest eclipses that this century has seen, and therefore very, very powerful, strong eclipse. This one's a partial eclipse, not going to be as strong. So that's the first assessment that we look at. The second assessment, if we're looking at whether this eclipse is going to impact us greatly or not, is it going to be visible in my country where I am living or where I am visiting? You know, is it going to impact my life because of where I am? And in this case, say for me, here in Australia, not going to impact me so much. If you're in South America, not going to impact you so much either. Also Europe, not going to impact you as much. It still may impact you, but it's not going to impact as much as for the people in those Asian areas that I mentioned a moment ago. The final thing that you want to look at, and you'll need to know your chart for this, is this eclipse going to occur on my sun, on my moon, or on my ascendant degree? And we'd like an orb of only about 2 degrees for this. So if you have your sun natally in your birth chart at 15, or let's say 14 degrees, 15 degrees, or 16 degrees of Capricorn, if you have your sun, your moon, or your ascendant at that one of those degrees, or 14, 15, or 16 degrees of Cancer, exactly opposite, and to a lesser extent 14, 15, or 16 degrees of Libra or Aries, then you, and obviously it will then be squaring the eclipse, then you can expect that this will play out for you in some way in your life. And every 9 years at most, we have an eclipse on one of these planets in our chart, or points in our chart. It can have to happen a lot more often than that as well, depending on where the sun and the moon and the ascendant are in your chart. But in this case, if you've got your planets at these degrees, you can expect some significant life change to occur for you because of this eclipse. So check out your charts, see if you are on the list, so to speak. Now I'm going to give you an example now of what happened to me last July. Last July, the eclipse occurred on the 27th of July. It was a lunar eclipse and it was a full moon eclipse. And it occurred 2 days out from my birth date, so therefore it was within 2 degrees of my sun. And this made it very, very powerful in my life. And it was visible in Australia, and it was one of the longest eclipses this century. So it was a powerful eclipse and it was occurring on my sun. And therefore, big life change stepped into my world. What happened for me was I lost my day job quite unexpectedly, suddenly, out of the blue. That's the energy of an eclipse, things you won't see coming. Also, my very young relationship, I hadn't been in it very long, but it came to a conclusion as well. So the eclipse brought about some big endings in my life, and that can sometimes be the case. The whole purpose of an eclipse is to give you a fresh start, clear out what's not working, make room for the new. So some things can be swept out of your life, yes, but equally things can come into your life that give you a fresh start as well. So it's a very powerful energy. In fact, in my life, at the times when my life has taken the greatest left turns, if you like, it's been caused by an eclipse. I'll give you some examples. I met my former husband the week of an eclipse. I realized that I couldn't continue with the marriage, or that I was very miserable in the marriage and unhappy in the marriage at the time of an eclipse. 8 months later, I realized that I finally left the relationship at the time of an eclipse. And when I began doing astrology full time, that occurred for me during the week of an eclipse. So you can have lots of good things come in, like partners for life, or new business opportunities, or new fresh ideas for life and living and where you want your life to go. You can also have things that leave your life, but they leave for the purposes of taking you into your destiny. I mean, look, we've got the North Node as part of every eclipse that occurs in some way, shape or form, either opposite or conjunct the sun and the moon. And we have the North Node representative of our destiny point, where we're headed, what we want to achieve in life, what we are rising up into. And so the energy of an eclipse is all about helping us rise into our destiny, heading towards where our soul has decided this lifetime, this incarnation, it wants to go. So whatever comes, whatever unfolds from an eclipse will be for your highest good. And we really, I'm talking to myself as much as anyone here, need to learn to trust in that the universe has got our back with this energy, that it's all for our highest good. Now, just a minute. Okay, just checking my notes. This eclipse is going to be very important because, as I mentioned a moment ago, Saturn is involved. Now, Saturn is one of the big players in karmic astrology. We're talking past life stuff. And in fact, my self-developed theory, but one that I have seen play out very accurately in my life and the lives of so many of my clients, is that Saturn is the father. And he indeed, he is the father of the horoscope, father of the solar system, or in astrology he is considered to be a father figure. And he represents an authority figure, but in karmic astrology he is like this grandfather wisdom, you know. I'm going to place fears around your life, because Saturn is a planet of fear, based on what you've experienced in past life incarnations that have caused you to have problems and troubles and dilemmas. Now I'm putting these fears in place so that you won't make the same mistakes again. I'll give you an example, and I use this a lot in my readings, so if you've heard this little scenario, then forgive me. But if you lived around the time in New York, you were living around the 1930s and the Empire State Building had just been built, and skyscrapers are a brand new thing, and it's exciting, and wow, and this is fantastic, and you decide to go up for a look, and you get to the top of the Empire State Building, you're looking around, oh my god, it's amazing, wow, 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 and you fall off accidentally and plummet to your death. Tragedy. So then you incarnate into this life and you have this inexplainable fear of heights. Oh my god, I'm not going out on that balcony. I can't explain why. Don't ask me why. I don't know. I just am petrified of heights. I can't look over the edge of a balcony. I can't stand on a glass bottom thing in the Grand Canyon and look down at I can't cope with heights. I have this fear of heights. Where is that coming from? It is Saturn placing fears around your life because of past life traumas that you've had. And I will vouch for that with my horoscope and the past life regressions that I've experienced. Saturn is placing fears in my life. That's part of what I need to unravel and get rid of in order to move ahead. But the fears are there because I've been traumatized or hurt or whatever from certain scenarios in past lives that have to do with wherever Saturn sits for you natally in the horoscope. So there's karmic astrology 101 there. If you want a karmic reading with me, I can look at all that sort of stuff for you. But Saturn, the point is here that Saturn is a very karmic planet. And so when he is part of this eclipse energy, he is bringing karma in, like karmic issues up in your life again. You mightn't even realize that they're karmic issues. He is making us address in this eclipse our karmic loops. And what I mean by karmic loops is the things that we keep rehashing and going over and can't seem to break free of. This energy of this eclipse may well help us resolve, break free from, clear out, sweep away the energy of karma in our life that's holding us back. And this can happen on a collective level. I'm using my hands a lot today. Collective level as well as a very personal level too, in our own personal lives. Now this can happen, this sweeping away of karma can happen through our thought processes. So it might simply be that, you know, we address certain thought patterns in our head, or our thoughts are focused in a certain area for the month or so leading up to the eclipse, or the month or so leading out of the eclipse, and we have certain thought processes that unravel certain feelings and past things we've dealt with throughout our life, kind of issues, or it can be events that change things. You know, it might be someone comes into our life that really teaches us how to love ourselves better, or it might be we discover some guru on YouTube that is inspiring and uplifting, and like, oh, they've changed my life, and now I know how to heal that wound that I've been sort of harboring in my heart since childhood or whatever. So you can have some outer world event that helps clear away the karma, or it can be through your own thought processes. But the energy is going to be unexpected, as is the nature of eclipses, and it's going to be an energy that's very much about redirecting you into your destiny and what you hope to achieve in a way that's free of the karma. And don't we all want to be free of our karma? So what you can expect with this eclipse and what you can do about this eclipse, we're going to explore those topics now. The first thing is, you be kind to you. It is a period of emotional ups and downs. Eclipse energy is just that way in general, you know. So you'll have times over the week or so around before the eclipse and after the eclipse where you're feeling a bit unsettled, a bit funny, maybe a bit low, or maybe really ecstatic and wired up. Like, just be kind to yourself. Recognize, okay, I'm feeling really low at the moment, if that's what you're feeling, and that's all right. It's just probably part of this energy. Look, I think I'll just get some popcorn and watch a movie on the couch, you know. Or I'm feeling really really buzzed at the moment, and I'm happy and I'm joyful. Maybe it's a great time if I went out and hung with my friends, you know, because I've been neglecting them lately. So whatever it is that's going to work for you regarding how you feel, honor it, and in that way be kind to yourself and honor your emotional state, whatever it takes. Simplify your life. That is always a good thing to do wherever Saturn is involved with anything. The more simple and stress-free you can make your life, the better you will cope with the Saturn transit or the Saturn energy in that area of life for you. So it's a busy time of year socially. Often New Year, we go to parties, we we hang out with our friends, we go out for drinks, or in Australia we're on holidays and we're at the beach and we're entertaining the kids, or taking them to the movies and to 10-pin bowling, and we're trying to keep them occupied. So it can be a busy time of year, but I just want to encourage everybody to keep it as stress-free as possible. Keep focused on the simple things, maybe instead of filling your life with activities or parties, maybe focus on having a nice good meal at home instead. And cooking something really lovely and just enjoying quiet company and times together, because the simpler you can keep it, the less I'm trying to think of the word, the less frustrating and sort of charged up this energy can be for you. So keep it simple and you'll lower your stress levels. You might also need to restructure your life in some way in the house where the eclipse falls, and we'll be talking about this when we whiz through all the signs, and it will be a bit of a whiz through today. I'm not going to spend forever on each of the signs, but you may be called to restructure your life in some way, because Saturn is restructuring, and this is a new moon, fresh energy, new start that we're dealing with, and it's an eclipse, so it's fresh beginnings. It's allowing us to move more towards our destiny. It's pulling us towards what we need to do to create the new life we long for. So while there'll be a getting rid of karma, it's happening to propel us forward in a fresh new way with this new moon. So it's going to be quite an interesting energy and dynamic that plays out. But you might be called to restructure something regarding where the Capricorn is for you in the chart, or also maybe wherever your natal Saturn falls in the chart. Just say you've got natal Saturn down here in Leo and your Aries rising, well, that's the 5th house for you. So you might be called to restructure something regarding 5th house issues. If you are Aries rising, you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as you can see. So if it's not something I'm going to go into here, the placement of everybody's Saturn, but you can also look at where Saturn is natally for you. That might be something that's being restructured at this time as well. Or maybe it's regarding something that Saturn rules. So let's say you were a Pisces rising person Well, Saturn for you would rule Capricorn, which is your it's your 11th house. So the restructuring would be occurring in 11th house issues. In this case, that would be friendships and you know, your relationship to larger groups of people and clubs and so on. So that's just an example, but for everybody, the things that Saturn rules in a chart are different depending on your rising sign or depending on where Saturn sits natally in your chart. As I said, not going to go into all those things. We're just going to look at what Capricorn rules in your chart, because this is where the energy is falling, and therefore we're going to have a look at the restructuring that might be occurring for you regarding that house in just a minute. So what we're being called to do also with this eclipse is to review how responsible and how hardworking we've been over the last year. So where could we have improved, and where can we set new goals? Okay, we set our intentions for the year at solstice time. Now maybe it's also with the eclipse a good time on the 6th of January to set some new goals for the future as well. Particularly as we're called to review things with the karmic element of this eclipse too, with Saturn there. So seeing that karma is involved, we want to ask ourselves, well, what are these karmic loops that keep playing in our life? What do we keep dealing with? Maybe we keep on attracting the wrong sorts of people into our lives, people who bring us down, people who don't have our best interests in mind. Are we attracting the wrong sorts of people? Are we always being the victim? Are we always in situations where we get duped? Or someone takes advantage of us, or we're always the martyr for other people? What is this loop that keeps playing in my life where that issue keeps coming up again and again and again? How can I address that? The eclipse is a really good time, especially this eclipse as it's so karmic. It's a really good time to address that if it's an issue for you. Maybe you have constantly throughout life failed to own your own power, and now the karma of this eclipse happens and you're like, right, got to address this. Where am I repeating the same patterns over and over? Maybe you're always taking care of others before yourself, and that's your karmic loop. So have a good think. Like this, in the week leading up to the eclipse, it's actually a really good time to evaluate what are the karmic loops, that's what we call them, that keep playing out in my life. You know, what do I keep repeating? What problems keep reoccurring in my life that I need to let go of? And if you can get to that point of knowledge about those things in your own life before the eclipse happens, then the shedding of those things, that the karmic sweeping out, will happen for you in a much kinder way than it might otherwise happen when you're completely oblivious and unawake to what's occurring for you karmically, or what you're dealing with karmically. So I'd encourage everyone to spend some time reviewing that and looking at what karmic loops you're dealing with. So now let's have a brief run through of each house, and we're going to just talk about the things that might need restructuring. Sorry, I've got some hair in my eye. The things that might need restructuring, and where we might need to focus our responsibility and our hard work on for the year ahead. So or for the duration of the time around the eclipse and in the 6 months to follow. We always look at the eclipse energies as kind of lasting for about 6 months after. In fact, also the degree of the eclipse can be quite potent for about 6 months or so after the eclipse occurs. So this 15th degree of Capricorn, when little old Mercury moves across, actually Mercury is going to be in Capricorn when this occurs, I believe, just from the top of my head. Little old Mercury will come along and boom, hit on 15 degrees long after this eclipse is over, and that might trigger something that was started for you during the eclipse. And then next year, Jupiter, well, it's going to be too late then, but Venus might come along and hit on 15 degrees, and boom, something else is triggered. So it's a kind of a potent degree for a little bit of time, about 6 months after the eclipse occurs. So keep an eye on that point in the chart. Now we're going to look at through the houses, right? sorry, get my bearings for a minute there. Okay, so we've got Aries rising, and of course this puts this eclipse occurring in the 10th house, so there might be some restructuring of 10th house issues. And the 10th house is what you hope to achieve in the world. Yes, it's career. It's also authority figures. Maybe you'll have the opportunity to look at becoming an authority figure in some way if you're an Aries rising person with the eclipse occurring here. But it's connected to the legacy we want to leave the world. What do you want to be known for? What do you want to be recognized for? Do you want to be recognized for the beautiful artworks that you produce? Do you want to be recognized for being the CEO or the boss of the company? Do you want to be recognized and leave a legacy of beautiful music that you've created, or great amazing sportsmanship that gets you to the Olympics or something? Whatever it is, you're going to have to look at restructuring that in the coming months ahead with this eclipse occurring there in the 10th house. It's where you're also going to have to focus your responsibility and hard work in the next 6 months. So get on down to it, and if you want to be going to the Olympics, do the hard work, start training really hard, and put that Saturnian determination into work, and perseverance into work there for you. So there can be some restructuring and hard work that's required for you guys in the 10th house. And also 10th house karmic issues might come up for you. Maybe your relationship with authority figures, maybe the dynamics of, you know, the boss employee relationship. It just keeps happening again and again and again, where I get bosses who are total douchebags, you know, and you're like, why does this always happen to me? Well, maybe there's something in your karma that you need to lay to rest. So keep that in mind as well. And like I said in the beginning of this, take some time to look at your own personal karmic loops that are playing out in your life, what needs addressing and changing, because Saturn's going to do that for you. Okay, the next sign, and like I said, I do want to whiz through these today. Whoops, Taurus. Oh golly, Taurus likes going for walks here. Taurus rising puts it in the 9th house, so there will be some restructuring of higher learning, your relationship to other cultures, maybe, but this is probably particularly where it will play out in terms of the inspirational figures in your life, the gurus, the mentors, the people who've got your back, and your faith and belief systems. Definitely some restructuring that might occur because of this eclipse in what your faith base is. You know, things you've always believed in all your life suddenly might get swept out, you know, and you now have to stand on your own 2 feet, your own ideology perhaps. So there's going to be some changes regarding that. Again, some karma regarding sort of inspirational figures. Maybe you were involved in a sect in a past life or something like that, and it left you with some sort of hang-ups or something. Saturn is fears and things, so maybe there's some religious kind of fears or hang-ups about belief systems that need to be dealt with and finalized and karmically let go of. So Saturn might be calling you to address that now in preparation for the eclipse for anyone who is Taurus rising. So it's a house that's associated with religion. It's also associated with dogma. So in what way are you giving into dogma? In what way are you not addressing dogmatic practices that are holding you back, that are, you know, keeping you from being free and liberated and empowered? So that's another thing that can be being addressed with this eclipse. And also another thing that might need restructuring with Saturn. There might be karma there, but, you know, we've been a very religious type animal, if you like. Humanity has been very religious for thousands of years. So if you've lived many past lives, as we mostly have, then it's very likely you will have had some sort of religious association at some point in your incarnations that might be coming up for you now with this eclipse, that you need to address and get rid of the karma around perhaps false religion or misplaced religious beliefs or judgmental religious beliefs. So these are some of the things that can come up for you if you are Taurus rising. and you're going to be able to put also hard work and put your responsibility into these realms as well. So you might be getting very, very, you know, a position of responsibility as some sort of a guru. You might be able to, you know, something is taken out of your life so that there's room for you to do some higher learning, some more study, so that you can teach and empower others even. That can occur as well. Okay, so Gemini rising puts the energy of Capricorn and in the 8th house. So big karmic house, 8th house, massive karmic house. Maybe there are past lives of trauma that you have left you with certain woundings and certain mental processes that are not healthy, that are restrictive, that are controlling, and they keep holding you back in life. There's a real grip on you. This is actually an eclipse where you can start to look at releasing that, and the latter eclipse in January that's also going to occur will be helping as well. This is 8th house is the house of trauma. It is the house of, you know, the underworld, crime, abuse, and so maybe in past lives you were involved in some sort of criminal activities or abuse or exploitation kind of stuff. Maybe you were being exploited, or maybe you exploited someone else. Maybe now you've got karmic issues in that area that keep coming up for you in subtle ways throughout your life, or maybe not so subtle ways. And Saturn involved with these eclipses that are occurring in January is saying, you address this. Let's clear it all out. Let's get this gone so that we can move ahead. And so there's some restructuring occurring for you with regard to maybe past life woundings in this house. And it's also where you need to focus your energy in terms of responsibility and hard work. So maybe you need to do a lot of internal work, you know. Maybe you need to spend time really going deep. I mean, it's a very deep sign. It's a sign that's connected with psychology and those sorts of processes. So maybe it's a really good time for doing that as well. But there's hard work required here, or maybe it's connection with hard work around community property, around other people's money or other people's goods and other people's possessions. The 8th house is opposite the 2nd house, whoops, is here, and the 2nd house is our resources. 8th house is other people's resources. Hope that makes sense. So what hard work and responsibility do you need to put in if you are Gemini rising regarding other people's resources? You know, maybe you need to help someone manage their money better. Maybe you need to do some work or put some energy in, you know, mowing the local swimming pools, lawns, or something like that. Helping the community with their resources in some way. There might be a focus of, I am needed and I have to put in some hard work regarding those things. So the next sign is Cancer, and I'm not spending, as I said, too much time on each sign. If you allowed me to, I would talk forever on astrology. I love to talk about astrology, but we've got New Year's parties to go to, so I'm not going to be here forever. We've got Cancer rising. Cancer rising puts all this energy in the 7th house here. So 7th house, it means that you're going to have karmic issues regarding partnerships, regarding relationships, regarding even business partnerships as well. So you might have to deal with sort of some karmic loops about how you feel regarding intimate relationships, about commitment. Maybe you've been afraid of commitment your whole life and you keep running from it, and then along comes this eclipse and Saturn in your 7th house, and you're like, gotta deal with that karma. Okay, let's work it out. Why am I afraid of commitment? Why do I keep rehashing the same old situations? Or why do I keep on attracting the same old partners who are afraid of commitment? Why is no one willing to commit to me? You know, like, these are some of the karmic loops we can have in the 7th house. So you need to focus perhaps on releasing a lot of that karma through prayer, maybe through if you're into it, that sort of thing, doing some sort of a little ceremony or a prayer ceremony at the time of the eclipse. That is something that is very, very helpful towards releasing energy that's blocking, that's holding you back, and I would encourage it if you know how to do that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm yeah, that's, I was going to say maybe I could help you there, but I am not in a position for that at the moment to be offering that. This is going to be a time, this eclipse is going to be a time when you are restructuring your approach to relationships. If you are Cancer rising, how can you do it better? How can you make the focus more equal, more balanced, more harmonious in relationships? This is the nature of the 7th house. What can you do to help yourself there? And it's also where you need to focus your responsibility and your hard work. So maybe you've got to put in some hard yards with a relationship you haven't given enough time to over 2018. Maybe you need to start investing in your relationship more. Maybe you need to commit to your relationship more even. So lots of ways that you can work with that energy if you're Cancer rising, releasing the karma, Saturn in the and the new moon, restructuring relationships, committed partnerships, and focusing your hard work and responsibility in that area of life. Alrighty, Leo rising. Let's see if he stays. Yay! 6th house stuff. Well, this is a heavy duty area to have all this energy unfolding in. It means that you're going to have to restructure maybe your daily routines, maybe your work life, and your service to the world. How are you serving? Are you serving in the way that sets you on fire the most, that fills you with passion, with joy? Maybe you need to restructure things if you're not getting joy out of the way you're serving the world. And when we say serving, we're not talking about here's your dinner kind of serving. We're actually talking about doing what sets your soul on fire that is of benefit to other people. So it might be, it might be something as simple as weeding your garden so that your front yard looks nice and it doesn't ruin the dynamic of the whole street. That could be it. It's something that you love to do, to have a lovely front garden. It's the way you kind of serve your people in your street by having your house looking schmick. Maybe you're serving by, I don't know, practically working at a soup kitchen on a Saturday. Maybe you're serving the world by renovating homes, making each home that you live in, and you sort of flip them and whatever, making places more beautiful because you've been there and helping keep the world a more beautiful place in some way. Maybe your service is to listen to a friend who's going through a heartbreaking time. Service can happen in a million different ways. You're going to need to restructure how you're serving with this eclipse occurring, and say, well, hey, maybe I need to offer my skills and abilities in some other way to help the world. There's also going to be restructuring of your daily routines. You might need to put that health routine for the new year in place. Maybe your diet, maybe also the things you do every day. Maybe this eclipse will call on you to say goodbye to your day job and take on something that's far more about your passion, about your desire, about where you want to go in life, about the destiny you want to create for yourself. So this can be quite an interesting place to have an eclipse. You can sometimes find that maybe a job that you've been pretty lackluster about is about to head on out of your life. So this is very interesting, and there's also karmic relevance here as well. Maybe there's some karmic issues around self-worth, because this 6th house is connected to being quite self-critical and not thinking you're good enough, and not being confident enough. So some sense of I can't give enough, or I must be a martyr, or my self-worth is not is not at its peak. So there's some karmic issues there that you might be being asked to sweep out of your life and get rid of from your life in some way. So yeah, definitely like the sign Virgo. Virgo can be the perfectionist, wants everything perfect, and similarly there can be some karmic issues regarding a desire for perfection that perhaps is not realistic as well, or being very self-critical and harsh on who you are. So if you've got any thought processes that are playing around those themes, the eclipse might just make you address them in some way or another. Alrighty, now we move on to Virgo itself, talking about Virgo energy. Boop, There we go. Virgo, we've got Capricorn in the 5th house. So for Virgo rising people, this will be trining their ascendant from the 5th house, this energy. So if you do happen to have your ascendant degree at 11 degrees for Virgo people, 15 degrees for Virgo people with this eclipse, it can be bringing you something of benefit. The trine energy is the easy, harmonious, flowing energy. So this might play out for you in a beneficial way. You might actually receive something quite wonderful in your life. Maybe you might, it's 5th house, you might receive a new love or a new romance might come into your life if you're Virgo rising. But there's also going to be karmic issues that need addressing here. Maybe your attitude to love and romance has been something of a struggle, and you need to address it to make space for the new thing to enter in. So I'd encourage you to do that in the lead up to this eclipse so that you're ready, just in case that new love of your life is about to come into your life. Maybe there's some karmic issues around childhood, around what you experienced in childhood, or around the dynamic you have with your own children that needs addressing. Maybe some thought processes or some actual, relationship things that are not so crash hot that maybe need restructuring. So that's the other element of this eclipse's nature, is that there's going to be the Saturnian restructuring of the dynamic with children, with lovers, and also with regard to your own creativity and the way you choose to express in the world. So you might find that the way you have always thought about your lovers, and maybe you were someone who just took lovers for the sake of conquest, and maybe Saturn's saying enough of that stupid old karma that you are carrying where you think you've got to conquer and have power over somebody. Time for you to say goodbye to that, and let's be more loving and embracing regarding our love relationships rather than conquest and conquering. That would all depend on your own natal chart. I'm not saying that everyone with Virgo rising is going to be sort of the power hungry person, very unlike Virgo actually, the power hungry person in a relationship, but it would depend what else is karmically playing out in the chart. So please take that on board. Don't think that I'm saying. Anyhow, the energy is one of restructuring 5th house things. Restructuring your dynamic with lovers, your dynamic with your children, and with your own creativity and your ability to have fun and have joy and happiness and pleasure. You might have to take a look at, well, am I really happy? Is life bringing me the joy that I deserve to have? And if it's not, maybe you need to restructure something in your life so that you will be more joyful, you will be more happy. And maybe you need to put some Saturnian style hard work and effort into having more fun. Well, you lucky Virgos get to put some hard work and some effort and energy into having more fun, because that's what this eclipse is calling you to do, to be more focused, to be more diligent about 5th house things. You'll also have to put some hard work and diligence into love relationships and dynamics with children if Virgo happens to be your rising sign with this eclipse. All right, Libra. Libra rising puts this in the 4th house. This is a 4th house energy, and is also a very, very karmic house, the 4th house. So there's going to be big karma for people who have Libra rising with this eclipse that they're going to need to address. So maybe something not only from your own past lives, but from the genetic lineage that you carry. Maybe there's some skeletons in the closet with your parents that need to be brought out into the light, or to be, swept aside and forgotten, and just like, enough already with that, let it go. Let's put that karma, those karmic loops with our parents, with our mothers, with our grandparents, and with the lineage that we have, or the culture that we come from, these karmic loops of frustration or of angst, or whatever it might happen to look like. Maybe karmic loops that are really holding you back from moving ahead in life because you feel stuck in your past. Very 4th house, to be entrapped in your past heritage, or the old community that you grew up in. And the eclipse and Saturn are calling you to change, are calling you to have a fresh start, to move out of that old dynamic where you're stuck. So that might be the restructuring that you're called to work on, the dynamics of relationships with family members, not just your mother, which is 4th house, but all family members, anyone from your past community even. There's going to be a need for some hard work here, Librans, some responsibility, facing, you know, your duties and you know, maybe taking care of people from the past might come up for you because of this eclipse. Maybe you will have to start looking after your mother or your grandparents or something like that, or connecting with your community that you grew up in some way. So those are going to be the energies and the focus for karma, for restructuring, and for hard work and responsibility that crop up with this eclipse for Libra rising people. Scorpio rising people are going to see this eclipse occurring in their 3rd house. So the karma, the responsibility and the restructuring are occurring in realms of communications and learning for these people, for anyone who's Scorpio rising. So you might have karma with siblings. The siblings are seen from this house. You might have karma with you know, somebody who is teaching you something, that they trigger some sort of karmic loop, this karmic thought pattern of I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't know enough. These are 3rd house kind of karmic loops actually. So I am not enough, or I'm not, you know, I need to get more skills, more knowledge, more. Maybe that's a reoccurring theme in your life where you feel like I don't have enough degrees, I don't have enough certificates, they're never going to take me seriously because I don't have enough knowledge. I need more knowledge. That could be a karmic loop that you could be addressing if you happen to be Scorpio rising with this eclipse and Saturn working on karmic issues in the 3rd house. So a lot of it will depend on what is going on for you with planets natally in the 3rd house or aspecting the 3rd house, but this is where the energy of this eclipse will be playing out. As I said in the prelude, if you've got a sun or a moon or an ascendant, this is at these points, this is where it's going to be triggered most for you. So you're going to need to focus some hard work on your karmic loops, letting go of that feeling of I don't know enough, and restructuring your relationship to learning and to communication in general, to, you know, honoring the fact that you do know enough and that you are not stupid, you know. In fact, most Scorpio people are very switched on and very smart, but they might have an unworthiness loop that keeps running regarding their mental capacity. So you need to focus some hard work in this area. You might be being called through this eclipse to focus on responsibility and hard work regarding some social media activity or communicating, or some learning. You know, maybe you've got 3 or 4 degrees that you haven't finished, and you've tried that one and didn't work, and tried that one and didn't work. Maybe you need to put some hard work in and say, okay, I'm going to commit to one and I'm going to finish it. I'm going to do it because I know I can do this. And you need to change that karmic loop to give you the empowerment that you need to finish what you started, to go the whole distance, which is very Saturnian. So Sagittarius rising people, there we go. Oh, please stay, please stay. No, you're not going to. Okay, Sagittarius rising people, you are going to have karmic issues crop up for you regarding finances and resources, where I spoke about the 8th house being other people's resources. The 2nd house, in this case where Capricorn is for you guys, is about your own resources. So there might be some karma here for you that needs to be unraveled and swept aside because of Saturn's involvement with the new moon eclipse that's occurring at 15 degrees. So this is also a house that's connected to self-worth and your self-value. So you might be having some karmic loops playing out that, hey, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not funny enough, I'm not outgoing enough, I'm not enough. Whatever that happens to look like, self-worth, self-valuing might be the karmic loop that keeps playing. I can't earn enough money, I need to always be poor. These are some of the karmic thought patterns that can occur when we've got an emphasis occurring in the the second house. So this is what's got to go. This is what the eclipse is calling you to address and say, come on, let's deal with this. Let's up level from this. Let's move more into our destiny, out of this mire and bog of karmic thought processes that aren't empowering. So you're going to be called to address that sort of thing with this eclipse, and you're going to need to restructure your approach to resources and finances through this eclipse. So maybe you need to look at, how am I spending my money? Maybe you need to clamp down a bit on, throwing the cash around, especially at party time. Maybe that you need to, take a really good, sensible, Saturn is being sensible and being responsible, a sensible approach to what is occurring for your life, with regard to your house or your clothes or your home or your food or something like that. And you need to readdress your diet or readdress the wardrobe that you've got, that really, I've put on a few kilos over Christmas time and I just don't fit into those clothes anymore, so let's get realistic and let's get a whole new wardrobe, because I'm not going to fit into those size 6 jeans, whatever that happens to look like for you. So there's a restructuring involved with regard to your possessions, the things that you own, what you have. And you're going to need to focus your hard work and your sense of responsibility, very Saturnian, on second house things. So you're going to need to perhaps work harder over the coming 6 months even. The energy of the eclipse can play out for that long. Work harder towards making money. Maybe you're going to be called to put more effort into your, whatever it is that you do to make money. And it doesn't have to be a job. It can be, maybe you've got some shares, or maybe you have a few investment properties or something, and the eclipse is saying you're going to have to make more of an effort. Maybe you're going to have to repair those investment properties that people are renting and are falling apart, and the eclipse says, come on, get real, none of the crap anymore, you go and repair that roof that's leaking on those investment properties. Any area of life where you're making money, the eclipse is going to hold you to account and make you more responsible, make you put in more hard work. So get ready. That's part of the nature of this eclipse for you Saggy people. Then we've got, obviously, Capricorn in the first house here. What this is going to mean for you guys is karma, full stop. Especially if you have your rising degree at 15 degrees of Capricorn. This is a very important eclipse for you guys, and you might find that anything that's to do with your survival and your ability to thrive in life, you might be asked to address. So, it could be anything. It could be your money. It could be your relationships. It could be simply your health and well-being. This is the house of the body. So maybe you need to address your own health and well-being. What are you doing that's not really working for you health-wise? That's holding you back? You're going to need to restructure your health routines and the way you're treating your body. Maybe you've been doing, having lots of alcohol and smoking like a train and that sort of thing, and your body is, maybe at the eclipse, you sort of have an issue because of those things, and the body's saying, enough, I'm calling you to account. We need to restructure what you're doing to me here. I might be the shell your soul resides in, but I'm the only vehicle, the only shell that you've got. So how about readdressing things? And so you're going to be called to restructure things with regard to the health of your body and your body's ability to survive and journey through life. You're also going to perhaps have some karmic issues regarding any area of life. So maybe self-worth and self-value is something for you. Maybe some karmic issues regarding your survival. Now this is a big thing, because the first house is the house of survival, and in karmic astrology it's very connected to war. It's very connected to your ability. Sorry, someone's just coming in the door. Hi girls. It's very connected to your ability to thrive in life and succeed in life. So you're going to need to restructure whatever you're doing towards thriving and succeeding in life. And there might be karma regarding that. Maybe you've had past lives of some kind of torment or trial or tribulation, such as war or famine or drought. These are all seen from the first house, where the ability to thrive and survive is compromised. And so you are now being called to address some fears and some woundings in those areas of life karmically. Where are you afraid to step out and own your own power? Where are you afraid to embrace all that life has to offer you? These are areas that you're going to be called to address as a Capricorn rising person. And you're going to need to put hard work into this. You're going to need to work hard on maybe letting go of that smoking habit that you've got. Maybe you're going to need to work hard on releasing the karma of fear around having enough food to survive, because maybe you lived through famine in a past life, and it might take a lot of work for you to mentally unravel that in this lifetime. And so you're going to need to work hard on those areas, and maybe get some responsibility regarding the health of your body as well as the health of your soul. So it's a big time, this eclipse, for Capricorn rising people. And I just want to encourage you to really take care of your health. I'm serious here. This is a very pivotal place to be having an eclipse in the first house. If you are Capricorn rising, please take care of your health at this time, and do not go into any dangerous situations. Any places where people are acting excessively or violently or whatever. Really act wisely and with great maturity and responsibility, because your own well-being could be affected by this eclipse. Not meaning to cause fear or get you shivering in your boots. Just do what is wise and sensible for your bodily journey and your ability to survive, and you'll be fine. So Capricorn to Aquarius. I've got Aquarius rising, and that puts the energy of this eclipse in the 11th house. So when we've got the eclipse energy in the 11th house, this means that there are going to be some karmic, the 12th house, my mistake, sorry Aquarius, it is the 12th house. There are going to be huge karmic issues that you are dealing with, because the 12th house is the house of karma, a bit like the 8th house, but the 12th house especially, house of karma. And you're going to need to address karmic issues here. And this could be anything. Usually with the 6th house, 12th house axis, there's again that feeling of worthiness, maybe past lives of martyrdom, or loss of connection with the divine that might have occurred, where you sort of went into sort of the more baser elements of reality, humanity, and you lost touch with your own divinity. That can happen in the 12th house. But again, it's opposite the 6th house, which is connected to being a slave, being entrapped, being a servant, those sorts of things. And so you might have some karmic residue that rises up, and that can rise up in the form of thought patterns that say, I'm only worthy of achieving this much in life. I'm not worthy of that because I'm always going to be a slave or a servant. I don't know how to get in touch with my spiritual self. Maybe that's a karmic issue that comes up because in a past life you might have lost touch with the divine. I feel disconnected from my body. Maybe that's an issue that keeps coming. I don't know how to feel anything. That might be another karmic issue that keeps coming up. So 12th house stuff is heavy duty karmic kind of thought processes that are the result of a past life experience, or maybe even an early life experience in this incarnation. So those sorts of things will come up and you will need to address them. Or you might be restructuring your relationship with the divine in a practical sense, Maybe you are getting in touch with your own spirituality over the next 6 months. The 12th house is a little bit like the 9th house. The 9th house is religion, the 12th house is spirituality. So maybe, you spend time restructuring what you understand spirituality to be. Maybe you've always thought of it as something that fits in this little box here, and then through the eclipse you are called to restructure and discover that the box is non-existent, and that spirituality takes many forms. And so you go through a process of discovery and restructuring of your connection with the divine and with spirituality in general. It can also be a house of healing. So you might find that there is some restructuring you need to do that allows you to step into soul healing, as well as, you know, sort of deep karmic healing as well. And you're going to need to focus on this area of life, probably for the next 6 months. It's going to be an area that's about responsibility for you, and about hard work. So now go out and buy those spiritual books, or book into the ashram, or go do a yoga retreat and focus your energy on that area, and you will be really supporting what this eclipse wants to achieve. So by looking at 12th house things, and 12th house things just in general are your spirituality, creativity, healing, and also anything overseas, where we go overseas for the purposes of understanding and empowering our spiritual life. Not for a, well, it can be for a fun holiday as well. It's the retreating and the escaping from ordinary reality that proves to be a blessing for us. And ultimately the idea is that it helps us get in touch with who we are. So this eclipse might actually trigger the opportunity to do those things, to go overseas, to go to a yoga retreat, to go to an ashram, to go and invest in your own spiritual life in some way. It might bring in an opportunity that totally turns your life around 180 degrees in a really blessed way. So you Aquarians could be in for a lovely holiday. We've done Capricorn. Pisces. I never forget my beautiful Pisces. So Pisces people, where are they focusing on karma? Where are they focusing on restructuring? Where are they focusing on hard work and responsibility? Well, for Pisces people, this is occurring in the 11th house. And so this is actually a period where you kind of need to let go of friendships. And there's a restructuring occurring of friendships. Now this is going on because Saturn is moving through this house of friendship and has been for about a year or so now. And will be there for another 18 months roughly. So the restructuring in this area is ongoing, you know, the restructuring of our friendships. But the eclipse causes us to notice it more, to give more attention to it. We are being called to restructure our friendships, to, if you like, to clear out. This is what an eclipse does. It gets rid of what's not working to make room for the new. And so we might be called to get rid of friendships that are holding us back, making us feel bad about ourselves, giving us a sense of unworthiness or whatever. And we are, you know, this is the time. This eclipse will make us say, enough. Put some boundaries in place, Pisces. No more of the friendships that drag you down. So there'll be a restructuring of friendships here. And you'll need to focus your hard work and responsibility in this 11th house area. So you might be working really hard on a project or something like that, or dealing with some kind of a activity. Oh my God, I've just had deja vu from about 10 years ago. Far out. Sorry. Deja vu moment. Back to what we're talking about. You might be called to focus on you know, some sort of project that you're working on, and you know, put in some hard work there, and be really diligent. Put your head down, your tail up, and get on with the job, because that is what Saturn is calling us to do. And this eclipse is going to really energize that feeling of, I must do the work, I must do the work. And this is a lot of the reason why we have to restructure our friendships, because we're so focused at the moment, Pisces people, on doing the work with the purpose of receiving rewards and gains down the track when Saturn moves out of the 11th house in about 18 months time. So this eclipse is going to really empower those energies. We're going to be more you know, focused on doing the work with the vision of the rewards and gains. So it might be restructuring a website that you're dealing with, very 11th house. It might be doing some hard work around establishing, well, I'm Pisces rising, and currently I'm working on a lot of webinars that I'm hoping to put up on my website and so forth, and share on Lada's channel and everything. And so there's a lot of focus around production, doing the work, doing the, you know, internet, so the internet kind of thing, and reaching large groups of people, doing some sort of networking for the purposes of work, while my friendships are very much being restructured and redefined at the moment in a really big way. So this is what the energy is going to be like for Pisces people with regard to hard work and restructuring of their lives. And there's also karma here. We've talked about this eclipse being particularly karmic and dealing with the karmic loops that keep playing around in our head from our past lives, or if you don't believe in past lives, from your early childhood. And for Pisces rising people, this is karma regarding large groups of people that may have come out in past life experiences. So maybe you were at some point in a past life part of sort of a communist country, and there was some sort of hurt and wounding that occurred because of that. This is a large group of people, the hoi polloi, like Lada says, or the common man. Maybe you were part of some sort of I don't know, a hippie movement, or you know, in the 60s that you were, you know, in San Francisco or something, and through that you experienced certain things that have left you with certain, you know, thought patterns and ideas about life that now aren't serving you so well. And so along comes this eclipse with Saturn and says, let's get rid of what's not working, the karma there, the thought patterns that are causing you hang-ups. Let's get rid of it all so that we make space for the new to come in. So this is what the eclipse is doing for all of us. Getting rid of karmic stuff that is not helping us to restructure our lives, and causing us to work harder in certain areas of our life and focus on certain areas of our life more, because Saturn is a big player in this eclipse energy. So I hope that's made sense to everyone. I hope you've learnt something. I hope it's been empowering for you. I hope you've been able to look at your chart and see where your sun and moon are and what the dynamics are playing out for you with regard to the connection to this eclipse, and therefore how powerfully it's going to be felt in your own personal life. So let's just finish up with a prayer, and yeah, let's just start. Energy of love in the universe, we are so grateful for everything that 2018 brought us. And we are so excited about what 2019 has in store. Help us to work with the energy of love in the universe to bring more growth, more empowerment, more blessing into our lives and into the lives of everybody that we interact with on a daily basis, or even the people we just happen to stumble across and meet. May we bring love and joy into their lives as it is brought into ours. And so it is. Thank you for joining me throughout 2018, and I'm very excited about what 2019 holds for us all, and I look forward to connecting with you further as the year goes on. God bless.